Bad Boy is the one that we have.
I've seen them.
Just Bad Boy, Big Dog. Wait a minute.
Okay, we're live.
The big dog is the little.
We are live. Okay, it's 6 p.m., so we'll call the meeting in order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, March the 22nd. If you would at this time, please rise for invocation. And I'll try to do that tonight. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight and ask for your blessings on this body, this county, this our community, and our country. We pray a special blessing for those folks that are in the turmoil of war, and we pray for peace. We ask that what we do is pleasing to you, and ask for your continued blessings on us all. These things we ask. Amen. You join me in prayer. The pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Jessica, is there any sign-ups for public comment or none? Okay. All right, so next on the agenda was public comments. We have none. Moving along, the next item is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, you have the approval of the March 8, 22 regular meeting minutes and approval of resolution 09-2022, which is the 2021 budget amendment, a departmental budget amendment request. And that was for, Jason, remember, that was for specifically?
It's for a number of things. It's for the previous fiscal year, so in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And again, so we're basically realigning some accounts in different departments in response to their budget overages. Those are done by department. You can see the detail attached to the resolution. But yeah, that's for the previous fiscal year.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen, you have the consent. Is there a motion on the consent?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
I abstained from the March 8th meeting. I was absent.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. All right, moving right along. New business, discussion on bulk pickup of inert debris in high-density residential areas. And gentlemen, I asked for this to be put on the agenda for tonight, but because of, y'all remember at the last meeting, Ms. Prather, who resides down in Lincoln Park, which is one of our high-density areas, had expressed concerns about inert debris, not having the ability for it to be picked up, and promoting people to burn this stuff rather than haul it off. So I just thought, since you took the time to come and express those concerns, that it warranted discussion here amongst ourselves to see if that's something that the board would want to have staff investigate. As possible changes to our contract the way it is now. And I'll just start it out by saying I do recognize that we have high density residential areas in the county where if people are wanting to burn lawn debris, it's probably not a good idea. Kind of a nuisance for their neighbors. But also understand that this would have to be in those types of neighborhoods. You couldn't. There's no way. It's not practical when you got 426 miles of paved roads to allow that to be a countywide. I can't imagine what the cost of that would be to have somebody drive the county roads every week looking for lawn debris and that type of stuff out the road. And then there's obviously a lot of problems associated with that. So, keeping the ditches clear and stuff like that. But I just wanted us to at least have that discussion.
So would tying it to like a zoning
criteria be the best way? I mean, something, I mean, that'd be the only way I would know how to kind of narrow it down without cherry picking. You know, tying it to some type of residential zoning.
Residential, planned residential, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 80% of the county roughly is AR zone, so it would be.
Narrow it down to those high density areas.
Do we have any high density areas that is currently still zoned AR? You know, I can think of, when you really start thinking about high density areas and you start looking, I know just in my district alone, I mean, you're looking at Sunnyside, you're looking at Glencliff, you know, a couple off Jeff Davis Road, you know, a couple off Hannah's Mill Road, Salter Road areas kind of, those homes are kind of pretty close together. I just, you know, and I think it's a good idea, but then you got to determine where you're going to do it, and then there's a cost associated with that. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to me, the reason our trash collection service is so, and because it's compulsory, it works.
Right.
So, unfortunately, I don't think in this instance, in the unincorporated area, we could make it compulsory. It would have to be some kind of a la carte option that someone could either subscribe to, or maybe it's just on an as-needed basis on a schedule. So maybe those are your two options, and then if it's not, you know, then how many people are going to utilize the service at an additional cost? You know, and the last thing, and I think all the board is aware of this, but just for the sake of making the comment during this section of our agenda, you can take these things to our transfer station at no cost as a county resident. I realize that
They take it.
up to a certain tonnage, and I that is already part of our contract, and I know not everybody has the ability to do that.
In order to take it to the transfer station at no cost, you still must have the little pickup, the green can,
Correct.
Yeah.
You have to be a customer.
Have to be a
That's
customer,
right.
yeah.
Because that's
I think it's
by your address.
4,000 pounds a year.
So many pounds,
I
yeah.
think that's right.
and the only other thing that scares me about subscription services is we're starting now on our roadside mowing.
Right.
As they go along and there's debris out on that roadside and it doesn't get picked up, and it'd be a nightmare trying to schedule roadside mowing based upon
That's right.
litter being on the side of the road. So it's a possibility to go by there's tall grass being up, you know, it's definitely challenging.
Yeah, with the exception of one neighborhood that Commissioner Jones and I are intimately familiar with, we don't have curb and gutter anywhere, so we have open ditches. So that, Commissioner Ellington brings up the point about mowing. It's also an issue of stormwater. So it does cause stormwater problems. I mean, big piles of leaves and sticks clog up pipes, and that's, you know, one of the main reasons you wouldn't have it in rural areas for sure.
So to give people options, I mean, obviously, so you have trash service. You know, hopefully you can find a good neighbor who has a trailer or something like that, or you know, I'm sure the cost for that increased service for just that occasional time, you know, that you would pay monthly, if just the occasional time that you have stuff that you need to get rid of, it'd probably be cheaper to pay somebody with a trailer, or, you know, find somebody to do, a good neighbor or somebody like that would do that for you, and then they just take it out there. You just go with them, and when you go out to the transfer station, you deposit it there.
But the city picks it up in the city, right? They pick up yard debris, right?
They do.
They
They
do.
haul it to the transfer station.
You're supposed to have it in certain, you know, you can't just have huge long limbs. They're supposed to be cut up in certain.
You can cover up a transformer with it.
Yeah.
Now, as a city resident, I'm not actually not a fan of that service either, because there's something in, just take my own street for example. There's something in the road every day, and when the wind picks up, I mean, it just blows all over the place. I mean, it's in a service that really is attempting to ensure that our properties are clean. I think it has the opposite effect.
Does that one, you have to call in, or they just ride around? They just ride around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely say if we entertained a service like this, we would be on call.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
have to be, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, kinda like bulk items with,
Yeah.
with other folks. Is, you have to call and schedule and try not to put it out 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time.
Supposed to go out the day before.
Mhm.
Supposed to go out the day before your scheduled pickup.
Correct.
And we know that
Not
that's
the
a
week
challenge
before.
for us.
Now-
And I agree, you know, I pitched this out there because it just felt like it was, we need to have this conversation in public. But, you know, if you look at the trouble, some of the troubles that we have with bulk pickup, things like trash, appliances and things like that people will just put out by the road without calling and scheduling, and then it's out there. And then Jason's getting an earful from all of us about, have you seen this? Have you seen this pile of stuff on Cobbtown Road? You know, so, you know, but I know our trash service sees it when they go around, so hopefully they're doing their best to take note of it and move it. There's a pile on Willis Road that I've been looking at for a month, you know, and I guarantee they don't have any service. I think it's a rental house I go by all the time. So if we did this, then we start encouraging people to put inert debris out there, then it becomes, unless it's a paid subscription where somebody's there every week to do it, and I can't imagine what the cost of it would be.
Can we investigate how much would it cost to have it? I know that's a challenge for the staff perhaps, but we need to identify how many condensed areas we have that will qualify for that.
Well, what if we said to see if GFL wanted to do that
Yeah.
on a pay-as-you-go type thing? I don't know, you can see what the price of that might be.
Like per call, what the charge would be.
If you
call.
had it, then you know, but again, then that's gonna get like the other bulk pickup. It's,
I think that's gonna be so sporadic that it's not gonna be reliable. They can't afford to keep a guy in a truck waiting for 3 months out of the year that might be busy, and then the rest of the time, what are they doing?
okay, so right now, the Inert solution is, you know, please take your stuff out to the, yeah, take it out there and they'll dispose of it. I talked to James Melton last week, you know, because obviously we're always hauling stuff out there, and you know he's having some issues with size of some of the stuff, because you imagine, so you know, previously they said they'd take anything under 6 feet, keep it under 6 feet. Well, I guess they recently carried some stuff out there, and because of the diameter, they said it needed to be 12 inches. So I think we've got some concern. We're having some issues with the bigger stuff, the bigger volume that we're bringing out there. One of the things we probably should think about too is, you know, we possibly have storms coming through here tonight. You know, it's not, you know, if we have another tornado, it's when we have another tornado, and we know we're going to have a lot of debris. We currently don't have a permitted place to take inert storm debris, right?
No.
So, you know,
In our emergency management plan, the transfer station is designated as that spot.
Right.
Mhm.
right, and then we get into, if we have another event, when we have another event similar to what we've had in the past, they have issues with size and stuff. So, you know, the last time we had one of these, you know, we were taking it out to the road department. And remember, a couple of years ago, when the road department had accumulated years of debris, you know, we got it cleaned up, but we hired somebody to come in with a mulcher to mulch it up. You know, is it something that we want to explore, you know, going ahead and getting that designated as a spot? And if there's stuff that we got to get rid of, you know, when a tree falls, like the one we saw today, you know, that's not going to fit in any container. You know, where are we going to take it?
Mhm.
So, you know, and so if we have a spot already designated as something for us, then,
And of course, in extreme cases, we can always haul it straight to Butler ourselves. It's not desirable.
yeah.
And the other component of our emergency management plan is that we have identified in that plan multiple contractors that can come do storm removal for us, and they have those existing contracts with these inert places and others. So, so we do have that as available as our plan. It's just if it falls below the status where we would potentially be getting some kind of reimburse, obviously we got to pay for that service out of our own pocket. And we actually ran into that during our last tornado event.
So if we had the place, say like out the road department, and we already had it permitted, and that's where we took our stuff. Instead of our road crew having to go to the transfer station, maybe getting turned away, and then they're like, what do we do with it? You know, where's it gonna go? If we have a spot already permitted, ready to go, and then going forward, we knew we would periodically, once or twice a year, bring somebody in to mulch it and haul it off, so that we don't ever get back in the situation we had before, where we had a mountain of debris down there. So I see some head nodding, so maybe you might want to talk to James and say, hey, I think we'd be up for something like that. I mean, I think that the cost when we had it mulched last time was in about the $10,000 range. So maybe once a year we have a better way of getting our stuff off, rather than going down to the transfer station and being turned away, or spending time trying to cut it up into smaller pieces to where it would fit. Just take it down there, pile it up, and be done with it later. Yes, sir.
Well, you said a couple times a year at $10,000 a year. That's
once a year.
And that's speculating at today's cost. We don't know, but I mean, how many times? I guess I'd like to. As far as the emergency management thing, I think we got a plan through EMA or for emergencies. I mean, an emergency status, they're going, and we probably could get Martha Ann to kind of fill us in on that. But an emergency situation, there's a lot of things we can do in emergency situations that you can't normally do on an everyday basis. So I like to convert back to how many times are we running out and getting stuff, Jason, that you're aware of that's just it's too big, and what is too big, and a guy in a chainsaw in 20 minutes would that solve the problem?
Yeah,
I just don't want to create another liability for the county to maintain, watch, permits, and then the next thing you know, it gets out of hand, and then we got the state coming down here talking to us about it. I mean, that's just one more fire.
on our worst day during our tornado event, they obviously waived all the regulations for us, and we're just trying to haul anything we could get them. And when we overloaded them to where they had trouble, we were bringing them stuff faster than they could move it. We staged it at the bottom of the hill on their facility, and then the Forestry Service, their sawyers came and worked those piles until they were at such a time that they were actually going to those piles to actually pick them up and load them, rather than so. Under those extreme conditions, we can always find.
Extreme. We're pretty good at handling that. Mm-hmm. But I'm hearing there's routine issues, so I would just ask you to look into that. How we deal with the routine. Where's the stuff go? How do we process it? So anyway. So we talked about that one. We beat that one to death.
Well, the other thing, we really didn't solve anything about Lincoln Park, but no way to partner with the city for them to take that over.
As far as
Taking their claw out there and cleaning it up every once in a while.
The other problem we have at Lincoln Park is they're also mostly open ditch there too.
we rode down there today and we saw debris piled up in ditches.
Width of the streets down there is another issue.
Mm-hmm.
Power lines, width of the street. It's
Low power lines.
It's gonna push right up to the edge of the street.
So the interim solution is, just get the stuff. If it's small, there's a lot of burning going on down there. It's obvious from our visit today, and it's not inert debris. There's other types of debris that's being. It's not me, is it? Oh Lord. That's okay. So anyway, yeah. So a lot of the burning that I noticed with Commissioner Wilder today, and with Jason was not inert debris.
Correct.
A lot of it was trash and rubbish. And there's really no reason to do that down there because you should have trash service. So, and so I would encourage anybody that sees anybody doing that stuff to call the county office and let us know. I guess it would be a code violation, something code enforcement could perhaps go investigate.
Certainly.
Okay. All right. So moving along. Update on discussions with the Georgia Department of Transportation regarding the bridges on Jeff Davis Road and Hannah's Mill Road. And I'll start for teeing this off for Jason by saying last week, Jason and I were invited to a meeting with Tyler Peak and Adam Smith out at GDOT to get kind of an update on all our projects. And both these bridges were discussed, and obviously within a week's period we had some updates to one of them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Well, and the interesting thing about that is that obviously we hadn't heard the news about the latest update on the bridge when we had that meeting. Now, we were alluding to the fact that it was not if but when that bridge would be downgraded, because I think we've done enough due diligence on this. I mean, this project goes back more than 2 years for this board, and maybe I'll cover a little bit of that history if the chairman would like. So let me walk back before this meeting. You know, a couple of years ago, when we got, I believe, which was our second downgrade on the bridge.
And specifically for the record, it's the Hannah's Mill Road Bridge that crosses Potato Creek.
Correct. When we were in receipt of that report, we put our engineers to work immediately to look at mitigation plans for that. So our engineers put a scope of work. We put that scope of work out to bid a few years ago, and prices came back close to astronomical. It was in excess of $500,000 just to mitigate the issues to keep it at that low rating for a longer time. The board made the correct decision at that time to not award that contract. We went immediately back to GDOT and asked them, can they fit this in their off-system bridge program? Because obviously the cost of a bridge replacement in that area, I think, is estimated to be in the $1.5 to $2 million range, which is way outside of any type of SPLOST funding or other types of funding we would have for a project like that, especially on short notice. So they went to work, and they were able to get it into their system and now have it programmed and for the 2025 fiscal year. So fast forward now to our meeting. They knew they were going to send the divers down to do a reevaluation on the bridge. They said they were going to do that when we were in the meeting last, and that would be coming soon and we would have an update. Well, that update related, the dive team came back and said, hey, please notify the county to block the bridge off. We'll send you your report soon. We haven't received the report yet. But what we have asked GDOT to do is if there was any way they might be able to slide that in an earlier fiscal year on our off-system program. So they said they're committed to trying to do that. I think the potential for that to happen is very, very high. We just don't have a guarantee yet. So it's my estimation that we will be able to get state funding for this without a local match. They're willing to try to do that for us, but it's probably going to mean that the bridge will remain closed for probably close to 3 years. So it takes a long time to design a bridge, it takes a long time to demo an existing bridge, and it takes a long time to put a new one back. So
They did good on that one on 85 up in Atlanta. So
the difference here is that this bridge will be re-engineered. So one of the things that's changed since that bridge was installed, and I forgot what the date was, Mr. Chairman, I think it was early 50s. Am I right?
I'm not sure.
Early 50s. So it's a 70-year-old solution. So, you know, the hydrology calculations have changed, so that one of the things they told us in that meeting that most certainly that bridge is going to have to get higher off the water. And obviously they're not going to put pylons directly in the water anymore. They redesigned it so that they'll have probably support on both banks. So it's going to mean that it's going to be a larger bridge in length and in width to meet new standards. So all that being said, it's gonna be a, you know, an 80-year solution, so the pain is that if we just can manage without it for a few years, then we'll have a completely new solution for it, so. Mr. Chairman, did I miss anything from that conversation that would be pertinent to the discussion of that bridge? And then we can maybe go on to the Jeff Davis Bridge.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this, so, you know, so Hannah's Mill Road itself, I don't know if you guys have looked at it, it's getting pretty bad too. I know it wasn't on our list to do this year, but I mean, I'm sure once we do the road assessment, it'll be pretty high up. So we'll probably just put some Band-Aids on it until this project gets done. Yeah, there's obviously not going to be much traffic other than the residents and folks going to that church. So it'd be limited traffic going down through there. The only other thing, and I mentioned this to Jason earlier today, I've just got some concerns about, you know, where we currently have the road closed. Let's make it maybe make it easier for the residents. So we don't need people that have business going down there to have to drive on the shoulder to go around the signs or driving between the signs. I mean, I think as the word gets out, we posted, so bridge is closed, road closed, no through traffic, and, you know, did we get any update? Did they get the riprap installed today?
I know they were in the process of, I don't know if they finished.
So once the riprap is installed, obviously nobody's going to be, they don't even want people walking on the bridge, so. So if we could just look at sign placement, where we've got it closed. I mean, a lot of people go to church at Fellowship, and just making sure that they can easily get in and out of there. So I think it's imperative that we get that riprap installed this week, sooner the better.
On the signage, quick question, are there detour signs?
There are.
Before?
The detour signs are already up.
Yeah, they're obvious. I mean, I just happened to go down there today to look and see, and I had a vehicle in front of me, and it got to the road closed sign. And to go further, this is coming from south going northbound. I watched a gentleman go around the animal hospital and go out. So it's just a matter of time before we start getting complaints from some folks like that. And we don't want the shoulders to get tore up. So anyway, if we could just look at a better way for that. So and that's pretty much it with the bridge. Anybody have any other comments or questions about Hannah's Mill Road Bridge?
No, just can't make time go by fast enough.
I mean, we were working this, and it's unfortunate. I mean, and I'll say this. I mean, I saw pictures. Everybody sees the stuff that people post. Those pylons that you see under there that are virtually rotted away. Those are not supporting anything and have not been. Those are not the pylons in question. It's the ones that have been repaired. What do they call that when they build around them? You know, there are those that but it's to the point now. There's a reason they don't put pylons in the water anymore. So anyway.
And the Jeff Davis Road Bridge replacement is on schedule, so they're looking to, he actually said that they're looking to let that this year, and it would be a 2024 project, so.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that project will happen while both bridges are down. That's what we were trying to avoid, but at the cost to replace. The one thing I do want to add, Mr. Chairman, to the rest of the board members that weren't at the meeting, we gave GDOT all the engineering we had done on the bridge previously. So we asked them and said, if there's any type of mitigation that could keep the bridge open even at 5,000 or at 5 tons, sorry, that we would potentially be looking to do that. But obviously, once you get into the 100, 200, 300,000, even if it's that cost, it may not be worth it with finite resources. But there's still a potential that they can look at some of the engineering we did previously and have a solution that would get it back open temporarily, but it's not likely. So.
It's a good point. Okay. Any other updates? I mean, we know, and they did mention to us, you know, the bridge over Elkins Creek going out 74. I think still moving on that on schedule, and I think there was another potential closure on 36 westbound.
Was
There's
there
a
a
pipe in.
culvert,
Yeah, there's a pipe that they're gonna be doing some work on that'll result in.
I remember the Elkins Creek one, but that's been a couple of years ago, so where we stand on that?
It's on, I think that's a 23 moving into 24 project, according to the update we got.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on roads and bridges? All right. Next is a discussion on local option sales tax negotiation schedule. And I'll just turn it over to Jason.
Well, perhaps, Mr. Chairman, you can cover the meeting with the mayor and the city manager part about it. But for the purposes of me having the floor for a second, I'll go ahead and get my portion out of the way. As everyone on the board knows, it's the county's responsibility to initiate the renegotiation process on behalf of all eligible parties. When eligible parties simply just means Upson County, Yatesville, and Thomaston. So we have to officially call this 60-day period to order, basically kick off a time clock on or before July 1 of 2022 of this year. So that any qualified city within the county may initiate the renegotiation process, and then after that point, we'll have 60 days to get something negotiated and finalized. The law requires them to. And if we fail to do that within the 60-day period, the law requires us to submit immediately to non-binding mediation, arbitration, or alternate dispute method. So given that timeline, we had a conversation with the city manager and the mayor, the chairman and I did, and they said that they were probably be ready to begin this process in mid-April, if I remember correctly.
Right. We suggested that we get this thing done sooner rather than later, and we tended to agree between the four of us to shoot for mid-April, and so around April 15th, whatever that meeting is, somewhere around there, I guess we'll through resolution or whatever, call for it, and then we'll have 60 days to get it done. The city manager and the county manager have got some homework to do between now and then. They're each looking at the 8 criteria, and so they can, when we come together, we can compare notes on that. Another part of this is re-looking at some aspects of our joint projects agreement. The joint projects agreement in its current form is good till next year, I think August. But there's some things that we've had one-off discussions about potentially changing some of that, and the loss split could be affected by some of that. I mean, joint projects. I mean, our EMS that we just added, and all that. So one of the big things that I think we're going to really focus on going forward is equity, making sure that taxpayers in the unincorporated county benefit from lost as close as their city neighbors. So we know right now there's a pretty decent divide there. So we'll get to it, and so we've got some work to do. But once we kick it off, I mean, we've got to get it done. So I would just ask that, and this board has been really good about working with Ms. Jones on meetings and times and things like that. So we'll get together at our workshops and discuss some strategy and some of the analysis that we will accomplish. So that's where we're at with that. Anything? Okay. All right. Discussion on the Lincoln Park Community Center. And I'll kick it off by saying that Commissioner Wilder and I and county manager spent some time down there today. I was surprised when I went in there. Obviously, our staff has been in there doing a lot of cleanup. I mean, they did a really good job cleaning the place up. It probably looked nothing like it did when you first went in there.
Exactly right.
So they did a really good job cleaning it up. But it is obvious to me, and Mr. Wilder can obviously speak for himself, that there are issues with that building down there. And we talked about what the need for that facility is, what its use, needs to be or would be, and then the cost of either, repairing what we currently have, which in my opinion is probably throwing money away, good money in a bad project, or doing something different. So we're not sure what that different is or what that cost would be. So it is very unfortunate. I mean, it's been that building's been there in existence for a while, and it's showing its age. But it does have some water integrity issues, and obviously the HVAC unit is shot. It was completely destroyed.
Yeah, just a couple. It did. The staff did a great job. Once the sheriff released it back to us, and it was no longer a crime scene, the staff did a wonderful job getting it cleaned up. But there's not a section of drywall that hasn't been destroyed. All of the plumbing in the bathrooms has been just completely destroyed. The kitchen actually survived decently, but the large windows that let the sunlight in at the top of the eave of the gym, I want to say 5 of the 8 of those have been destroyed, so they'll have to be replaced. And the HVAC system has been rendered. And it's a fairly new HVAC system, but they did so much damage to it that our contractor, our local contractor here, gave us an estimate of $14,000 just for the HVAC system. So, which is a shame because it's not that old of a system. But it was. They worked hard to break it. So you're probably, and we were, 3 non-experts in the building were down there looking, and it's tens of thousands. It's probably $60,000 or $80,000 just to get it back to where it was.
And so that's where the discussion went then, is get the building back to where it was.
And then what do we do to make it, useful and functional as far as the code is concerned? And that was some things that I know that the code enforcement are going to look at and recommend that we do it now. Once we bring it back where we can use it again, I think that's one of the first things we need to do, get it useful again, and then we can decide as a group what we need to do with it, how we're going to handle the upgrade or the replacement, whatever we're going to do with it. But the thing we do first, get the plumbing working again, and put a bath, put a commode in there, so in case something is to happen, somebody's going to use it, at least they can use the facility. That's the way I look at it. We need to. To me, that's a fairly minimal cost to put a commode and get the bathroom functional again. But then you do have to decide on how we're going to do the other things that need to be done to make it like it ought to be.
It's a very, and one of the things I asked, and Jason will work on getting to, is, I want to, as we look at repair, replace, things, look at utility costs. It's a large building, I have no idea what the cost to heat and cool that place has been. Is it too large of a space? It's a big gymnasium. Can we would it be more efficient to have something smaller?
Well, if you don't mind me asking, I'm just curious, but we pump thousands of dollars into our civic center for programs and etc. Why would we go
and fix up a place that's broken. It was broken before it was broken. Why wouldn't we got a civic center that offers those programs. We can enhance some programs, and everybody's got one centralized location to go to. And I know people say, well, the people in that community, well, what do the people in Yatesville do? What do the people do at Crest do? What do the people in Logtown do? They're if they want those type of activities for children, they're having to travel to the civic center. It's more controllable. We can budget for things that we need. And I've heard some people say, well, you know, some people from this community might not be able to afford to get to the civic center. Well, what are the people out in Crest doing when they want to go to? They got to get to the civic center. Just saying, I understand each community wanting a park, but to have a facility. And then if we go and we repair it, what we're gonna do next time it gets tore up?
Hey, just for the public, I see you raising your hands, and I understand you want to engage in the conversation. It's not the practice of the board to do that type of stuff. This is not a public hearing, so this is more for you to hear the discussion of the board. I'm sure we'll all be happy to talk with you after this is over, or in a public hearing or a public comment. So don't run off after the meeting. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
Well, my point is, I mean, we have a resource. We got issues over there. We're trying to fix those issues. I mean, we need to centralize this stuff so that we can have all these programs and these functions, and they can be managed and controlled in a central location. We're not. You know, we got less than 30,000 people here. I mean, we're not Metro Atlanta. We don't have to have a civic center every 3 miles. I mean, it's just, you know, it costs a lot of money to build and maintain these places, and we're putting a lot of money in the civic center. If we're gonna start doing out branches, then we need to scale back what we're doing at the civic center. That's just my point. I mean, I'm looking at it from a resource standpoint. That's where we're dumping all our resources.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is definitely before we sink another 60, 80, 100,000 into it, we need to have all the options on the table and at least explore the different options. I mean, I think putting some minimal things out there now just so it's usable. But what I'd hate to see is fix it back to the way it was, which is really not in that great of shape. It's just usable the way it was, and then something else happened again, and then we're out those dollars.
Wow.
And with that, is there an insurance claim file on that?
There is, yeah. So,
What's
the first, and I'm gonna look at our clerk. I know she's got that. Do you have it with you?
I don't have it with me, but I think it was like $10,000. It was like $10,000 or something.
I don't think that was the whole claim.
That wasn't the whole
I think the claim thus far has reached about $18,000. So we are, you know, obviously a lot of that property is close to fully depreciated. There was some new assets in there. But,
so
that doesn't mean that that's the end of the claim, but that first claim check I think was in the $16,000 or $18,000 range.
And so that I heard Commissioner Wilder correctly. I mean, so the intent is to just replace the toilets, so that if somebody's down there working or somebody's, just incidentally down there, that there would be a toilet facility available. But we're not looking at doing anything replacing HVAC.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We fix it so it's at least minimum usable until we can decide as to which direction we go, how much it's going to take, and what direction we're going to take.
But I understand, we all understand. So you're not intending on getting it back to where it would be in any condition to rent right now, because there'd be no heat and air.
That's correct. Yeah, but we need to make it usable. At least have the facilities that if somebody is there working and doing some things, they can use the facilities until time comes when a decision is made.
and there's exposed wire.
Right.
I mean, all the emergency exit things were ripped down. I mean, so we're, one of the things, and I think what Commissioner Wilder had said, code enforcement, we were actually talking about our building official was gonna go through there and let us know what the minimum, if we were gonna allow the public back in it, we've got a minimum standard that we have to bring it up to as far as our building code.
Right.
Because I can tell you, it is not there now. You can't have exposed beams and walls and exposed, so all the drywall would have to be done, all the plumbing would have to be done, all the emergency exits and lighting would have to be redone. All the lighting that was destroyed in the gym would have to be redone, because I mean, the lighting doesn't work. And then all the windows would have to be replaced. And that's just going off of what I can remember from what it would take to CO the building again.
And my point is, if we spend the money to get it back to where it was at, and it was already an issue that it needed to be addressed. And then we decide to go, well, just say, for example, we decide we're gonna build a new facility there. And we wasted that money, that goes away. So I think we just need
to have all the options on the table.
we need to have all the options on the table, sit down and make a decision.
That's why I made the statement that we need to have it at least functional until that time comes. We, because it won't take but it's a small amount of money to put the community back together, so that people can use it in case they're down there working on us. We can look at it and we can decide what to do with it.
Okay.
Is the building locked up?
Yes.
And you access the bathrooms from the outside?
No, well, there's a couple of bathrooms down in the speaking ground down there, but of course they're locked right now because of the until a certain time that the weather is determined that it's not gonna freeze again.
Okay, so next step is building official's gonna go in there and kind of cursory look to try to determine
Yes.
his estimate of what he would think. We're gonna look to see what the utility costs have been to operate that thing, and then obviously, we've got to talk to folks and try to figure out, the way ahead as far as programming, and then, what a replacement could look like if that was the will.
Any grants for, that?
For community centers, sure. Yeah. But they take time.
You gotta have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
How you gonna use it,
Yeah.
what it's gonna look like.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just submit to the board, for us to give you options, we'd have to know what uses that we're planning for.
Well, and I'm not sure that, it sounds like we're ready to talk about that, we know what it's been used for down there. All we gotta do is go back and look at the rentals down there to see how it has been used. And see if that's the way we wanna go or what, so. All right. Well, we like I said, we went down there today and walked around, and it's something we need to get moving on.
And Mr. Chairman, one last thing, and just for public information's purpose only, the property was only released back to us from the sheriff's office a few days ago. So once that happened, the staff obviously went and did a pretty jam-up job to get all the debris out of it. So it's only been back in our hands for a few days.
I don't guess the sheriff has got any leads on,
And not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, moving along. Well, gentlemen, I messed up, and I meant to ask to amend the agenda so that we could have a discussion of a salvage yards that's popped up out there at 320 Yatesville Barnesville Road. So since we didn't amend the agenda, is it too late to do that? Is it be appropriate for us to amend the agenda to have that discussion, or should I just reserve it to my comments?
Since you didn't do it at the beginning, it's probably better to reserve it in here.
That's what I was thinking. It's okay. All right. Well, next on the agenda, County Manager.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. First of all, congratulations to our staff, and I'm going to say specifically to Doug Currier, who worked so diligently on this. But the chairman, you actually shared this with me. It's our notice from Department of Community Affairs that we've officially had our comprehensive plan amendment approved, and we now carry the designation of a broadband-ready community. So you can look us up on the DCA website and see it's all there. What I think is funny in the next paragraph, they said, now begins the challenge of working and implementing a plan. Well, guess what? We've already done that. So, but anyway, a big thanks to Doug and his staff for getting that across the finish line. Couple items to be looking for in your next agenda. One, our legal team has reviewed and approved a draft of our revision to the timber harvest ordinance. This is obviously something that we've been working on a long time. This is in response to the legislation change from the last legislative session. So I'll be looking forward to that. I've been actually working with road department staff and with a little bit of help from Commissioner Ellington. We've got a complete rewrite on our it's in our ordinance. It's called our utility ordinance, but essentially it's how utilities can and cannot operate in our right-of-way. And I've got that draft to English Law Group yesterday. That haven't had an opportunity to review that, so that will be the next one in the cycle. Once they get a review on that, then I'll get it out to the rest of the board. We took the approach that we were going to simplify it and just adopt GDOT's 2016 manual, and you'll see that. So basically, it's a series of definitions where it redefines positions that have the authority to make decisions in GDOT's manual, and then just replaces that with language that refers to county staff. But I think it'll serve our purposes very well. So that will be coming in the near future. We covered local option sales tax. And lastly will be the revision to our sewer ordinance. I've got a draft ready to send to English Law Group, which they haven't had the chance to send them. So those will be the next three in the pipeline. So I look forward to getting those across the finish line. And as the board may remember, that's something that we agreed to do as part of our sewer agreement with the city for the extension to the industrial park. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that is all for my comments this evening, unless the board has any questions.
Ms. Jones?
I don't have anything.
Mr. English?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick thing. Obedy Road, just wanted y'all to know that we have not forgotten about that. I'm currently in discussions with the city attorney on how to address that. There's some concerns on their side, which there have been some concerns. I think we're over the initial concern, but there's some new concerns that have cropped up that we're working through right now. So hopefully in the near future, I'll be able to present some type of proposal from their side for you guys to consider.
Nothing regarding land ownership and split? Really? That was all?
Well, when you say split, splitting the land or spreading the
Yes.
proceeds? Yes.
That's already been voted on. And
That was already
both
discussed
bodies.
years ago, and now, so it's coming back up again. That's unfortunate. Okay. We're having to go back and rehash something.
There's a new city attorney, so there may be some miscommunication because of that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
If I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, that was voted on both by this board and separately in the city of Thomaston on the split. And it should be recorded in the minutes of Board of Commissioners and the city of Thomaston.
Call the vote. Was there a resolution or anything
Yeah, I
like
think
that?
there was some type of resolution on the split.
I'll check it tomorrow.
I'll check with the
I don't see you have to re-plow the field that's already been plowed.
I think we had to do that resolution in order for the DBA to hand title to
Yeah,
vote on
we
it
did
to
that
be
when the
hand
OBA,
titled. Right.
the OBA, to send the title over.
Right. They had to have that motion, so.
Yeah. Remember?
Yes, and I'm with Commissioner Ellington on this. I think that has occurred, but I would, for the sake of being extra careful, I'd want to go research it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right, well, look, I'm going to go next. A couple comments I want to make. Legislation for our homestead, Representative Camp told me today, they thought they were going to do it today to get it through the House, but now it looks like, cross your fingers, it may be Friday. So it's still being held up in the House. So anyway, our homestead exemption is still being held up. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. They are very optimistic that they'll get it through the House this Friday. Just want to share, so it was a great time to ride through the Lincoln Park area today. We've got some work to do down there. We have some significant code enforcement issues down there. I know that we have done somewhere between 2 to 5 demolitions down there where, but you can go down there now. There's dilapidated property down there that's sitting vacant that needs to be cleaned up, and the property owners, aren't doing it. I know that now that we've got this new process working with code enforcement and English Law Group that will help us facilitate that and make it more timely. But I don't know what the cost is going to be for some of that demo work.
We have that demo work in our budget for this year. So I think it was for 5 structures. So.
We saw 4 structures down there that are in a row. That could be. Just you're talking about a huge impact. Just if you took those 4 out, that would make a huge difference. There are significant safety. It's not just about the appearance. It's about the safety of the citizens that live down there. There's a lot of code enforcement issues down there. So, when people burning trash, not supposed to be burning trash. If you look at the roads down there, you see where donuts are being cut in the road down there, just all over the place. That area is in need of some attention, and the landowners are not doing it.
Well, some of them are. Some of them are doing a great job. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm talking about the ones that are. Let me reframe that. The folks that live down there that want to do good are doing extremely good. The folks that are customers of our code enforcement people are not. So, so my hat's off to the folks that live down there, and you're taking care of your stuff. You're taking care of your neighbors. Great job. I'm asking to get some help down there, because you see it. You see those houses that are falling in. That it's just a kid's going to go over there. Your children walking around. I know what I'd be doing at 10 years old. Those would be great forts. I'd be playing and doing all sorts. We've got to clean it up down here. So I hope to have some more discussion on that. But anything we can do, Jason, to get code enforcement, they could spend a week down there, and there's so much work that needs to be done down there. And then the last thing I'll touch on is, and Commissioner Jones is going to love this. So this is that junkyard, that salvage yard that showed up at 320 Yatesville Barnesville Road. About 3 weeks ago it was full of UPS trucks, and we started looking around, and now they've got they got an excavator out there and they're crushing it. So somehow this has become a salvage yard. And just a little bit of homework that I've done, I don't understand how it could be a salvage yard. I think the Secretary of State has licensing requirements for somebody to be in the salvage business. So I don't know if we can look in to see if the registered owner, P&D
Enterprises.
Yeah, P&D Enterprises. There's more to it. Fleet Repair and Sales Inc. Are they a licensed salvage/used parts dealer? Secretary of State. I tried to call the Secretary of State's office today, and I got nothing but, leave a number and we'll call you back. So there's that issue. Commissioner Jones, you want to add, while we're on?
I could add so much to it.
I know you're getting blowed up on your phone by the neighbors out there.
Right. If you want me to, I can, I can let you finish and then I can, or I can continue your conversation.
Well, just to kind of summarize it quickly.
Well, we got people living down there right next door to this thing. It's the old Yatesville School out there. What was the name of that school?
Cunningham Junior High School.
Yeah. And they turned it into I don't know what you want to call it. It's a demolition yard.
Salvage yard.
Salvage yard. Yes. They're demolishing UPS trucks out there, hauling them in, wrapping them out, crushing them up, and hauling them back out of there. And I had no idea that UPS had that many wrecked trucks, but they are just hauling them in, one right after the other. But anyway, so Yatesville's a good, quiet place. Been very quiet out there for years and years, even at the school. And now I got people calling me that it's just constant hammering with backhoes, crushers, and everything else, and it's destroying their way of life. I got one lady that called me on the phone. She lives right there, right next door to it. And she walked out the door with her phone on regular, not even on speakerphone. And the hammering was so bad, it was hard to understand her on her phone standing in her own yard. She told me she couldn't get any relief from the noise. So I just don't know that's the place. Well, I know it's not the place for it. I'll just say it ain't the place for it. Something like that belongs in industrial zoning or something else.
Well, so if I could.
Go ahead.
It is zoned AR. Salvage yards are not a permitted use in AR. So I guess what I'm asking, and I don't know if this, I know this is kind of a roundabout way of getting around with not having this on the agenda, but at our next meeting, if I would like Jessica this to be on our agenda, and I think we've got some homework to do, and the sooner we do it, the better. Is how this happened, is building and zoning, and then I would ask county manager and county attorney, let's do some research and find out. Are they a licensed salvage dealer? If they are not, what can we do? Can we do some sort of injunction that tell them to stop until this gets worked out? Just the little bit of research I did on salvage and used parts dealers, there's bonds that you have to have. There are things that you have to do. So if we could just, and I may be completely wrong. I researched it for about an hour today, and I just think that there's reason to question this. This place has been in business. They've been registered with the Secretary of State's office as a business since 2007, but this is brand new down here. They just purchased this.
But they're from Orchard Head.
Right. They just purchased this property December the 16th. So, and I think Mr. Jones has brought up some questions about the occupational tax. I just asked the staff to do a little bit more digging. I don't want to. We've got citizens out there that their life. This lady's life has been turned upside down with this thing. Literally, I think I'd say 200 feet from that piece of equipment that I saw out there running around today.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know if either one know, but is that residence on a well right there?
Yes, that's outside the city limits.
That's an
right
environmental issue upon itself out there. The residents being that close to well water and they're out there you know, spilling
There's a well on the
contaminants
school,
on the ground.
school property,
The,
a good well.
yeah, so, all right, so without beating it up, we'll wait. I mean, hopefully we can find some sort of remedy to this. I mean, you know, it's
I guess our.
right business,
Our
wrong
workshops-
place.
Our workshop's coming up before our next meeting, right?
Mhm.
Maybe we can talk about it then, and at the meeting.
Okay. I mean, this, the lesson is, is our code, our ordinances, are there loopholes out there? Or is there something we need to shore up? I mean, you know, we've got examples where we've got a junkyard out to Topeka Junction. We've got a junkyard on Hendricks Church Road, you know, and you know, and these things are just popping up. What can we do to, I mean, I know that, you know, you're always going to be reactive when it comes to things like this because somebody's not going to come and ask for permission to do this.
Not always.
They're going to do it, but then once it happens, I mean, this thing in Topeka Junction, we've been dealing with that for a year, maybe. I mean, the guy's dragging junk cars. I mean, if there's something that we need to do, this is the question for staff, and you don't have to answer tonight. Is there something that we need to do to resources, ordinance, something? Because clearly, you know, we don't want this. We don't want this to happen, you know, so.
Well, and the one for, you know, in Yatesville, I mean, we've been given some cliff notes, but it'd be good to get kind of that back history, like you said, and see how it got to this point just so quick. If they purchased it in December, I mean, that was a quick change. So how did that transition happen?
There's a lot of questions out there.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and if we find out that there's something that if there was a checklist and they didn't check the one box, can we stop it until we get a handle on this? I mean, we're tied up with one now for, you know, that we're dealing with that's been going on for 3 years plus. So, anyway, that, I've said enough. Mr. Wilder?
Well, my comment is all concerning Lincoln Park, and I know that, you know, the GM obviously is a serious concern to a lot of people out there. And no decision or discussions have been made as to anything about the GM other than what you heard tonight, pertaining to the future of that community center. But one thing I do want to mention, it's a little premature for me to mention this right now, but I am going to mention it anyway. There have been a few people putting some things together and getting together and trying to contact some of the landowners in Lincoln Park. What they want to do is put money together, borrow money, put it together, and buy up a section of Lincoln Park and put a medium income, medium quality apartment complex there and see what happens. But you know, one of the things that we run into is that so many people that we contact don't own. I mean, the people that own the property in Lincoln Park live miles and miles and hundreds of miles away, some of them states and states away. So you run into roadblocks. But like I said, this is just in the infancy stages, but the discussion has gotten started, and it's very difficult to get people to want to invest some money in Lincoln Park. And I thought I'd bring it up. I was going to wait another month or two to mention that, but now's a good time. It's just as good as any. Anyway, that's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
I won't talk about Barnesville Yatesville Road anymore. I do want, we've got this craziness going on over there in Ukraine right now, and I beg everybody to pray for an end to that quickly, for the good and not the bad. It affects their way of life a whole lot worse than it affects ours, but it's affecting our way of life also. Just pray for those people over there and a quick end to what's happening to those people over there. Other than that, that's it.
Mr. Ellington?
You know, I just want to bring up the two bridges in question. Both of those bridges are in my district, and I'm sure that I'm gonna have a lot of concerned constituents out there, people that live in that area, who travel through that area, whether it be to church or traveling to and from work. It's a cut through area. There's gonna be some, you know, it's gonna be some difficult, inconvenient times for some people out there over what appears to be next couple of years. And when both bridges go out, that's going to shift some traffic in some places that probably not accustomed to traffic. So I'm putting that out there. I know I'll be getting the calls, and I just ask that you know, staff be patient, because as I get those calls, I'm gonna share those calls with you. You know, we just need to make sure we're staying on top of it, and we, you know, and we're giving a little nudge every so often to make sure the ball's still rolling. You know, obviously today, I paid close attention to it. We did have an auction on some surplus county property. It appears that it went very well. You know, it looks like all lots, believe it or not, all lots sold. You know, for the sums varied. There were obviously, I hope that group that was looking at Lincoln Park, there was some lots in Lincoln Park that looked pretty attractive. Maybe that group picked up some of those lots down there today. But they did sell also some lots of Potato Creek Heights, obviously, you know, a big track out in my district on Skelton Road. Very nice track of land. And it appears that went really well for the county, and the county, you know, got some property that was through you know, basically majority of the property was through tax liens. Tried to sell it on the courthouse square, it didn't sell, and we've been holding it for years. So that's back in the taxpayers' hands now, so people will be paying taxes on that property now. And that's all I got to say, Mr. Chairman.
And then the question for the board is, you know, I don't think we identified how to allocate those proceeds from that sale, because we had no idea how much it was. So we obviously have needs that can be addressed, like more demolition. Sell land, tear something down, sell land. Anyway.
Well, to that point, I was also tracking the auction, and I was pretty impressed to see the outcome. A lot of good sales, and I think a lot of properties, like you said, off of our hands and back in the taxpayer, you know, their hands. But it was exciting to see the broadband ready community. I was glad to see that wrapping up as we're getting to our next stages of this project. And with that, I was just kind of curious, is there been anything down from this? There's nothing on how, no timeline or anything?
Not yet.
Because I know everybody's going to want to see some digging happen soon.
Have they released the money?
No, there's no direction on how the funds are going to be released, is the way I understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the good news, down in the Salem area, there's a private company that's already trying to get out front of some of the work that
They out in front of it. They have drilled miles and miles of holes in the ground and put fiber cable in the ground, and they come get Salem wrapped up in another couple of months.
Yeah, don't think that it's going to actually be fiber to the premise. Don't know that.
No,
sure.
I don't think
it'll be one of those umbrellas
to the property.
Yeah, it's fiber to like nodes, and then from the node out, it'll probably copper. So you won't see the speeds that you would have with fiber to the premise, but
right.
It's still better than what you have.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But I know it's a connection in front of my house right now.
It's amazing when the government says they're gonna give away some money where these people come from, you know. I mean, Salem down there, you know, I mean, it's just
I've been
land of the.
Well, you get broadband out your way.
I get broadband.
Yeah, I've been fussing with the public service telephone company for years about some little bit better speed, you know, but now they got all kind of equipment.
I may have to move.
Well, either way, at the end of the day, as long as everybody has access to high-speed internet, then that's kind of the goal.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Okay, all right. Any final by the ways? Now, hey, I did have one on so we mentioned the land sale today. that's not final until it comes before the board and we approve the final, correct?
Isn't that, each property has to be closed on.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll have to execute closing documents on all 26 parcels.
Okay, but there's nothing that says we have any approval over the bid amounts.
Absolute auction, all property will sell and will be sold at end of auction.
Okay. Just
I'm just glad it's open.
wanted that for clarity.
Yeah.
They're ready to close because we had some guy come in today. A little early.
Isn't it every
April
2
closes.
minutes?
Yeah.
Every 2 minutes, they're gonna have a closing, starting on whatever date that is. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad the commissioners brought that up. I felt like that vendor that we used to handle that did an outstanding job. So I was very, very pleased.
And it's, a lot of that property sold for fair market value. It wasn't giveaways. That
Yeah.
was what was impressive.
They did a great job marketing every little piece that we had.
Used to ride around and you see the little snipe sign out, says auction.
How many other pieces of property we got? I mean, I know if you look on the website, I mean, you know, Upson County owns this many pieces of property, you know, we just knocked a chunk out of it.
What didn't make that sale is basically floodplain that we acquired through we acquired it some years ago through a conservation group. So there's individual parcels out there that aren't buildable. I think, you know, to the extent that we were able to tell, your staff was able to tell if it was viable, it sold. So there's really, aside from Pobity, there's nothing left out there that we have.
Well, I mean, can't you sell those floodplains to neighbors? You know, hey, if it was next to me, you know, I'd give you $5 for it.
Okay, well, we could probably go on for quite some time, so, but that's all the business. Also, say, there's an event down in Squirrel Bluff next weekend. If you're a runner, which I don't think any of us are anymore.
I don't do trail running.
Trail run at Squirrel Bluff. There's been a lot of work done to facilitate that event, so if nothing else, you can go down and cheer them on. So with that, there being no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We adjourn. Thank you. We're still live.
All right. Who got it? Oh, okay. You have a softball game? We're going
It's on my account.
Yes. They can all see the device. You know what I'm saying?
I usually do that, but I've been getting to where when I take my notes, I lose them. And I don't have time to go back and type.
That's why I have a big pen behind me.